There were about 225 or close to 250 groups in the world working on a solution or on a vaccine development for the COVID virus. And then it came dropping down and down until the last 5 were left. Bharat Biotech and Covaxin, India's Covaxin is one of that 5 in the world. Nature of these infectious diseases have always been our source of inspiration.
And how was that first moment when you realized that, oh wow, we've developed a vaccine, now we have a solution for COVID, which is a national emergency kind of situation? How was your reaction at that time?
The strains came to India and we were asked to develop a vaccine. 2,000 people on a campus is not easy as well.
Hello and welcome. Today I have with me Ms. Suchitra Ella, the founder and MD of Bharat Biotech. Ms. Ella, thank you very much for joining us on Republic Business. I just want to get started with the first thing that comes to our mind when we think about Bharat Biotech is the COVID vaccine. I want to just ask you, you were the first ones to respond to the pandemic in a methodic manner. I want to know from you how exactly, what all went behind rolling out of the COVID vaccine?
Thank you so much, Pranav. This has been an exciting morning so far, being with all of you here in the studios of Republic. Thank you so much for having me especially here. And giving me this opportunity to again talk to you regarding how we have gone through the years of the pandemic, rolling out the vaccine itself. It all started out, in March 2020, when the world was just about completely, I would say, engulfed by a new virus, and people were running helter-skelter, didn't know how to react, didn't know how to go forth, do what needs to be done, and at what time frame it needs to be done, because everyone was kind of taken on the back foot. We in India, of course, also had the same situation, because even until March and April, we had to have specimens, strains of the virus itself. So we wanted that biological strain, which is extracted from the virus, and we needed the virus intact in its live form, because ours is not an engineered or an artificial strain as compared to the mRNA vaccines, which were then synthetically made. So for us to start our work was with the strain, and we reached out to the Indian Council of Medical Research, and under whom the National Institute of Virology is in Pune, and we reached out to them. So we said, because they were the authorized laboratory, the institute in the country that had samples of these strains. And in fact, you may recall that when we had started getting initial cases were reported, the strains were sent for a backup, to reinstate and to recheck the validity of the exact strain itself. The hospitals, of course, were doing, the few hospitals that were the larger ones were doing their tests in their campuses or sites, but then the samples were also being sent to NIV Pune in the very beginning, I think maybe a month or 2, and then later on almost all the cities could have their own kits and ready for them to do their own testing. But the National Institute of Virology is the repository of such strains in India for us, and we got our strains from them, and we transported it by road from Pune to Hyderabad, because our cargo was not functioning. The airports were shut, so there was no logistics available, and our own the regular logistic provider for us who carries our vaccines world over was not available for us to bring these samples from Pune to Hyderabad to our facilities. So we sent 2 cars and our own, our own scientists and biotech process team drove to Pune, collected the samples from the National Institute of Virology, and then drove down back to Hyderabad physically, and then of course shifted the strains into our facilities, which is a BSL 3 plus manufacturing facility. It works under negative pressure, so we have to ensure that all of these 40-50 personnel who work in that process area, in the bioprocess area, will not be infected by this virus, which they are handling, in fact. But it is a containment facility, so we work under negative pressure to ensure that the virus is contained, and at no point of time, even if there is an accident or by any chance, if there is any issue, that it doesn't infect or affect them. So this is how the journey started. The virus came in, samples came in, and then we were not happy with that few. I think there must have been milligrams of the virus, probably, or
so much for the
the
journey.
Not even milligrams, maybe even less than that. But then we run it in our. Then we grow the cells, we grow the viruses, and then we grow them to the extent of thousands of liters.
So you mean you multiply?
We multiply the virus cells.
Okay.
And that's what we do in the biofermenters. We call them bioreactors, and that's what happens because we need to extract the entire cell of that particular virus, and in this case the the SARS-CoV-19 virus was extracted, the entire whole cell of it, and that was then deployed. It is inactivated, after which, and then is formulated in a liquid medium with an adjuvant, and then that is what is called the vaccine, which is filled up in a vial. So this is how the process starts. So all this happened in probably 45 days. Since April, I think when we got the virus was end of April, and then by May, June, we had the vaccine ready. But what happens for us then from there on is the the concept of proving that the vaccine is safe. So that is what is called clinical research. So that had to be demonstrated in live scenarios, and clinical research starts from animals, the lab animals, which we are under regulatory processes and guidelines worldwide are meant to do that. So there is no, there's no such thing that this is cruelty to animals or anything like that, but this is how every pharmacopoeia in the world will want you to demonstrate. And for that we use smallest of the small animals which are permitted to be maintained and by us in our animal facility. So the animal studies started out, and then we need to prove the safety of the vaccine, and that data is then submitted to the Ministry of Health because they are our regulators for us in the country. And then once that is accepted, if it is acceptable, then they let us go to the next stage, which was to prove safety in the humans. So that had to be demonstrated, and until we prove safety in animals, we are not even allowed to take the vaccine to the next steps of development, of clinical research, which is required. So this is how the whole process of developing any vaccine happens, and it's the same for Covaxin as well. But the couple of things that were probably on our side was that Dr. Ella is our chairman, and he comes from a very long background in molecular biology and in being a researcher himself, being an academician, having trained in the US before we came back to India. So his his intuition was that there was this particular classical technology or the method that we have used, for example, is polio vaccine, which is even now predominantly the same methodology or the process or the technology platform is used. So he was somehow in his way of looking at it as a new virus, was very confident that he was comfortable using that old technology. It's called the classic technology, classical, because it's been tested and proven over decades now since polio. So he was very convinced about it, and he said, this is what I think we should approach. This should be our methodology. And also another fact is that we were not as a country also ready with the so-called mRNA route at that point of time. And that was not the time to then start off experiment and then, begin to do something new, and then time, and then this is a pandemic. So you need, everything needs to be compressed. So we said we'll start off with what we are very comfortable. We already have 17 or 16 other vaccines on this table, and right from polio on to rotavirus. So we have handled at least 6 different viral vaccines, which we have developed ourselves, and we were very comfortable, confident, and also have had the infrastructure to bring a live virus into our own campus, where I have 2,000 employees. Yeah, all of us work from our production manufacturing facilities. So we are responsible for everybody that is out there coming and working during the pandemic time. So in short, we were very comfortable with this process that we chose to go behind, and we deployed that same platform technology, and everybody was also very comfortable about it, except the virus was new. Everything else for my entire teams, the scientific teams, was routine matter. Apart from the social distancing and all the other COVID protocols that we had to follow, and having 2,000 people on a campus is not easy as well.
So what did you do? How did you deal with that safety aspect?
Yes, we split up the campus into 4 shifts so we did not have more than 500 people at a time on campus. Our campus is fairly big. Multiple buildings and multiple facilities of that sort. So we were all spread out. So we ensured that our buses that would carry normally a 45, 50 kind of a passenger load would end up carrying 18. So we made sure that all the safety protocols were followed. Even in the dining halls, the same thing. The tables were all spread apart, and less number of people would go into the dining halls. And then of course at offices, I converted all our boardrooms as our war rooms, because we needed to have a war room or a kind of like, because and again we couldn't be sitting in small offices and cubicles and have meetings with a group of our teams, with groups and teams. So we decided to take on the biggest halls that we had, converted them into our day-to-day. It was our war control room. It was our control room. Yeah. So that's how we ensured that all of them were taken care of. We worked in shifts, 3 shifts, ABC, and then there was a general shift. So that's how I said we split the groups into 4. The women employees on campus, at least I think we have 20%. Also came and worked around the clock. So they also, there are many instances when people, and we did B2C. Earlier on, the transportation would have been only B2B, but we ensured during the pandemic, we wanted to make sure that they reached the colony or the street corner safely and comfortably. So, yeah, so our buses were, so that also took a little bit lead time on our transportation logistics, but still we felt that that was the safest way that we could ensure that our employees reached home and their families would be waiting at their doorstep or something to, or the street corner to just pick them up and take them back home safely. That this is all before the vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I would love to know, I mean, when you actually, you mentioned ICMR, were there initially, when you pitched or when you actually stepped up to tell the ministry or the government that you would be manufacturing the vaccine, were there any kind of briefings given from the ministry, from the Prime Minister's office? Were there any kind of briefings?
Not initially, because it was for us to, we need to get an authentic virus sample. So that was very important for us, because as a manufacturer, tomorrow we need to have that record of demonstrating that this was an authentic source from where we, and there can be no better source than the National Institute of Virology, which is in Pune. Because we don't want to go and collect samples from any patient out there in any hospital. By that time, even Hyderabad would have had a few cases registered, especially at the government hospitals in the initial days I'm talking about. So for us, that was not the issue at all. And later on, we have written to, once we got the virus samples, we connect with, for us it is mandatory, it's regulatory as per the guidelines that we inform the Ministry of Health, because they are the regulators. So we write to them and we inform them that we wish to take upon this process route, these procedures, these technology platforms that we wish to try and apply to this virus as well, so that they are aware of it and they give us the nod. Actual nod is given by the Ministry of Health. So we just cannot say on ourselves that, hey, I'm going to start working on this. So the permissions are sought, and it is with the knowledge of the government and the ministry that we start pursuing these steps, bringing the vaccine to a vaccine ready in terms of scientifically ready, but clinically to be proven. Okay? So all that is done. At later on stages, yes, I'm sure the government would have definitely taken this information up to the level of the PMO during our the human trial. See, because at the very first day, none of us can assure what the end result would be or what the outcome would be. So normally vaccine development across the world is 10, 20, 30 years long.
And then you did this in 45 days.
No, the vaccine development is just the physical part. That is the formulation of the vaccine in the vial. But when I say vaccine development, from research to making a commercially viable product and then showing clinical data, which is safety, and then immunogenicity and efficacy in human beings, takes a very long time. So there are many projects which get stopped at any one of these points. So at every point you clear this step and then go to the next step. So that's how it is. So there's no climbing 10 steps at a time. So every step is measured and evaluated, reviewed, regulated, checked, verified, you name it.
But then I want to ask you, was it a race against time? Because there were
Yes.
other companies also that were
not in India per se.
Right.
Not in India. In India, we were the only ones who said yes, we want to attempt it, because we just can't say after 2, 3, 5 years have passed that we should have. So that was the spirit. We said it doesn't matter what the outcome would be like, because I think at the start of the pandemic, the very first 3, 4, 5 months of the pandemic worldwide, I remember reading articles in the Washington Post and publications like that from the US mostly, There were about 225 or close to 250 groups in the world working on a solution or on a vaccine development for the COVID virus. So you can imagine the amount of scientific research activity that had triggered because of one new virus that was spotted and identified and was transmitting itself. And every week or every time they posted the same article, they would also again tabulate it and keep saying who dropped out, or even if they don't name it, but they would say at least the numbers, you know, and then it came dropping down, down, down and down until a final, the last 5 were left.
Okay. And you were among them.
And Bharat Biotech and Covaxin, India's Covaxin is one of that 5 in the world.
And how was that first moment when you realized that, oh wow, we've developed a vaccine, now we have a solution for COVID, which is a national emergency kind of situation? How was your reaction at that time?
It was obviously good, because for us the ethos in the company has always been, for the last 30 years, ever since we started out this journey, it was always to find solutions to these life-threatening diseases, pediatric or adult viruses or bacteria, or other natural proteins and other areas, the fungus or whatever it is, the biological nature of these infectious diseases have always been our source of inspiration. Because I have to say this, because if you don't challenge that, then the scientific temperament of us being a scientifically driven, research driven organization then just doesn't make sense. So our backbone is that we believe in research, innovation, trying out new things, thinking out of the box, taking on tough challenges like the one that we took, being a very, on a global scale, we were a very small company as an organization. Our balance sheets don't match some of the ones that are out there in the world, but it's the mindset and the confidence and the commitment that I think our teams had. I say this because we have also done the swine flu vaccine. Yes. This was, I think, around 2009 and 2010 when there was an indication like this, that there could be an epidemic for the swine flu. Then the strains were brought from, at that point of time, from the CDC, from Atlanta. And then, of course, through the governmental, pathways, the strains came to India, and we were asked to develop a vaccine for the swine flu as well. So we were, temperamentally we were there. So there was no issue at all. There was no looking back, and there was no going back on those lines.
What about rolling out phase? What were the challenges that you faced when actually rolling out the vaccine, mass production?
The licensure, I think, came to us. Emergency use authorization, if I remember, was given on 3rd Jan 2021 to both the Indian companies that were going to roll out the vaccine. Ours was, of course, indigenously developed. The clinical research was proven in 6 months. I think by this, it was still going on. The last phase of the clinical trial was going on. The efficacy trial, which is the phase 3, was conducted in 25 medical institutions, universities and medical institutions across the country, with 26,000 volunteers enrolled into it. So all the last bit of it was still going on, and when the Government of India then decided to give emergency use authorization for 2 of the vaccines, and we were asked to roll it out by Jan 15th, I remember very clearly. 2021 was when our shipments went out a couple of days prior, but the government had wanted the first responders in the entire country to start getting vaccinated from Jan 15th onwards. So they were given a 45-day timeline to finish off the first responders getting completely vaccinated, because they were there out in the front. So from there on, there was no looking back. We used our own facilities in Hyderabad, which is human vaccines and therapeutics that we manufacture. We also have a couple of other manufacturing facilities. By then we had acquired, before the pandemic, we had acquired another plant in Ankleshwar in Gujarat. So that also came handy to us, because we had that additional capacities that we could use. And then the Bangalore facilities that we had just created a new facility, the second one. There was an expansion, and that was not used for any other product. So we went and grabbed that on and brought it in line so that it could also be deployed for producing the millions of doses of vaccine that had to be churned out. So from January on, we were full stream manufacturing. The cycle itself is about a 90 to 120 day cycle of the vaccine manufacturing process, and then of which more than half of it is testing, because we also do our own internal QC testing in our own QC labs in the company, but also have to send the samples to the national laboratory in Himachal Pradesh, right here within our, in our jurisdiction in India. It's a regulatory framework, so we follow that. So both have to synchronize, the data has to match, and it was a 120-day kind of a cycle to roll out the product, but it would not stop. Once the cycle starts, it just continues on, and then new batches are made, and then the next batches are made, so it goes on like that.
How was the appreciation that followed? Did the Prime Minister call you
Yes,
after
the Prime Minister, of course, was also reviewing us. You asked me earlier on, did the PMO intervene or had any inputs and guidance? Yes, of course. The Prime Minister himself has had virtual calls with us, with the manufacturers at that point of time, and of course with all the other officials concerned, with the health ministry there with him on the call, and asking us as to where we were in the process of the development of the vaccine. The Prime Minister has visited our facilities in November of 2020 when there was no vaccine, and when he had not taken the vaccine, or none of us in India had taken a vaccine for that matter. And I remember very well that after our emergency use authorization was given to both our vaccines, when the category of, I think the age groups were the senior citizens, the 65 plus, or they were first given the vaccine, and then it was taken to the lower age groups. So the Prime Minister himself took the vaccine on March 1st, 2021.
Did he say anything after that? Did he say anything? Did you get a message from him after that?
He has acknowledged that after we have met him at the PMO, and he has, of course, he was very, because he had come and met us in November. He had visited us in November, and he wanted to understand from us as to how far that this was going to be possible and feasible, and would it be proven right? Because ultimately, yes, we embarked on that journey of making a vaccine, but we needed to also establish that internationally that this data is absolutely, the integrity of the data is very, very, very important, because tomorrow in the international scheme of things, you don't want different other kinds of opinions and interpretations, or feedback saying that no, you guys didn't do this, and you skipped this, and you tried to shortcut certain things and all that. So that was not at all, that was very much understood by us. We knew that we had to go systematically every step of the way, so that we ensure that when we submit this data for international peer review, that our data and our information is accepted world over.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much.